الحمد لله نحمده ونستغفره ونستعينه ونستهديه ونشكره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولا مثيل له ولا شبيه له ولا ضد له ولا ند له، وأشهد أن نبينا وحبيبنا وعظيمنا وقائدنا وقرة أعيننا محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وحبيبه، من بعثه الله رحمة للعالمين هاديا ومبشرا ونذيرا، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده، فجزاه الله عنا خير ما جزى نبيا من أنبيائه، فصلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. واللهم ارض عن ساداتنا أبو بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي، وعن سائر الصحابة والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، عباد الله، فإني أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله العلي القدير القائل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم والذين أوتوا العلم درجات والله بما تعملون خبير. Surah Al-Mujadala, chapter 58, verse 11, Allah said, subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will exalt by many degrees those of you who have attained to faith, and above all such as have vouchsafed true knowledge, for Allah is fully aware of all that you do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in chapter 6, verse 104, that's Surah Al-An'am, قَدْ جَاءَكُمْ بَصَائِرُ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ. Divine enlightenment has come to you from your Lord. والرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام عن أبي الدرداء رضي الله عنه قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: وفضل العالم على العابد كفضل القمر على سائر الكواكب. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, the excellence of a scholar over another ordinary worshipper is like the excellence of the full moon over the rest of the heavenly bodies. Narrated by Imam Abu Dawood, may Allah have mercy on his soul. The word basair over here, which means enlightenment, came in that same form, basair, that form, 5 times in the Quran. Among them in Surah the times that it came in that form, in Surah Al-Jathiyah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said, هَذَا بَصَائِرُ لِلنَّاسِ وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةً لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. That this is a divine, Islam, Quran, is a divine enlightenment for all people, and a guidance and a mercy for those who know for sure. And in Surah Al-Qasas, chapter 28, verse 43, the same form came, but at the end says لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ, that this is a divine, that Islam is a divine enlightenment for people and guidance and mercy for those who are mindful. And this came, and that ayah in Surah Al-Qasas came in the same verse where Allah is telling us in the story to us the story of Musa. We certainly, that we've in reference to Allah, certainly gave Musa the book after we have destroyed the former generations. And right after that he said, and this, meaning the Torah and the message of Allah, being a divine enlightenment for all people. The subject of this time and next time, and I don't know how many, it's a series, gonna be an important subject, an enlightenment and progress. The reason I'm saying it's an important subject is because the enemies of Allah telling us, Muslims, that we are backwards because we are upholding to Islam. Okay? We are backwards because we love our religion. And the only way for us to progress and to move forward in life, according to the enemies of Islam, they're telling us to leave Islam. And that's the only way for us to progress. And we're gonna prove them wrong from historical fact, and also from the Quran as we mentioned, that this is to us, this is the divine enlightenment. This is the source of light for us that lights our intellectual enlightenment for progress. It's our destiny and fate that it's a package deal for us. And this is what we're trying to prove in this series, that we cannot have one without the other. We gotta have both. Before the advent of the message of Islam to our beloved Prophet ﷺ, there were already 4 civilizations. The Roman, the Persian, which at that time were the super empires. Also we had the Indian and the Chinese. They weren't super empires, but they were advanced civilization of that time. All 4 of them had intellect, knowledge, progress, and enlightenment. Their own kind of enlightenment, which we don't believe in, of course. But it was the enlightenment of that time. They had their own vision of intellectual substance, state theory, how to govern, engineering, architecture, medicine, measurement of astronomical distance, and the invention of compass, and many others. When the Prophet ﷺ received the message, this knowledge was exposed to him. He knew there were other civilizations. Remember, Rasul ﷺ is a revelation, is wahy yuha. So he was aware of its existence. But the Prophet ﷺ did not go and tell people, oh, it's haram to follow these sciences. And I'm talking about the sciences, the other literature to learn. I'm not talking about their type of enlightenment of that time. He reminded us learn from them the advancement of the human race in every aspect to fulfill the public interest, and other aspects which better human life. Because remember, one of the main goals of Islam is happiness of mankind in this life and the life of hereafter, to take the mankind from the narrowness of this life to the vastness and wideness of this life and the life hereafter. He was focusing on divine enlightenment though, to which Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on his soul, said, Muslims have divine sciences inherited from the seal of the prophets, which filled the world enlightenment and guidance. So Rasul ﷺ was not outside of that. Like every other prophet and messenger before him, he came to take people out of the roads of darknesses to the one road of light. That's the divine enlightenment. إخراج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور. But also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us in the Quran and challenges us to use reason, to use intellect, all through the Quran. He's saying يتفكرون, think, يتذكرون, remember, يوقنون, know for sure, يعقلون, use their intellect. So he's always wanting us to use our reasoning power. For nearly, or we're coming close to a millennium and a half, Muslims have understood Islam as a human condition that is antithetical to ignorance, that is opposite to jahiliyyah, opposite to ignorance. Most historical and religious accounts of Islam begin with the discussion of the state of ignorance in Arabia, and often use it as a benchmark to underscore the civilizing influence of Islam on the barbaric Arabs of pre-Islamic Arabia. When you study the biography of Rasul ﷺ from any author, from our successful predecessors or even today's, they always have to show you how were the Arabs before Islam and how barbaric they were before Islam. But at least they still had some goodness in them. The great Islamic civilization that was produced with the explosion of knowledge in the field of philosophy, science, sociology, medicine, and mathematics still remain a central influence on Islamic identity and an example of the unquestionable truth of Islam and its transformative potential. In the same vein, the rationality of Islamic beliefs and Islamic socio-political order remains a major theme in the discourses of Islamic intellectuals, scholars, and preachers. The point I seek to make is simple. Muslims have always understood Islam as enlightenment, the path that rescued humanity from ignorance, irrationality, and superstitions and launched human society towards the top of civilizations, toward the realization of perfect community based on divine principles, which fuels scientific discoveries and progress in every aspect of life. Islam, as I mentioned, it's our destiny and fate, that it's a package of divine enlightenment and progress in every aspect of life. It's that package. We cannot do one without the other. And if we happen to succeed without divine enlightenment or without progress, with one without the other, we will have fitna in our deen. We will have tribulation in our religion. And this is what Imam al-Sha'rawi and most of the scholars of the 20th century, when they realized the plight of the Muslim Ummah was enlightenment and progress, and they were trying to show people, to entice them to go to the source of the divine enlightenment, and that is the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. Now, when we say to follow the footsteps of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we mean, and our successful predecessors, what we mean is to go to the source of light and to figure out a way to progress in our life, in our daily life, every aspect of life. We don't have to follow the same methodology, the same lane, the same thinking. What we have to follow is the goal. We have to keep our eye on the ball. How we get there, and that methodology, we can figure out today's technology to get there. To get how to entice people to read the Quran and read the Quran with understanding, rather than read the Quran and do this without understanding, going up and down and don't understand anything, right? Allah subhanahu, it's good to memorize the Quran. There is a huge reward and all of us know about it, and that's not the subject of today. But what's obligatory on every Muslim, whether Arab or non-Arab, is to read the Quran with understanding. And that's what Allah tells us in the Quran. To read the Quran with understanding. Why He wants us to understand it? Because that's the only way to get the divine enlightenment. If we're reading the Quran every day without understanding, it's useless. This is one like one of the articles of being a deserter of the Quran is reading the Quran without understanding. Even though you're reading the Quran every day, but since you don't understanding, you are still deserter of the Quran. Because how are you going to apply it into your life? Right? And this is why the Mufassirin, or the scholars of the 20th centuries, they wrote a lot of books, a lot of tafsir books for the layman people like us, for us to entice us to read the Quran with understanding, so we can apply it to our lives. And we are not going to be scholars. This is tafsir or explanation of the Quran for the layman. We are not going to be scholars from it, but we're going to understand the general meaning of it so we can apply to it. Now, if we're going to study more and get in depth and do a research into it, that's different. That's learning, being a learned or a preacher and these things. That's different. But for the layman, the regular general people, they need to read the Quran in a language they understand and with the tafsir, with the explanation of it, so they can apply it in their life to the best of their ability. And the tafsir of the Quran comes from the Sunnah. So you're reading the Sunnah with understanding, rather than doing a following blind following, which we're gonna talk about later on, right? And this is what the emphasis of the scholars of the 20th centuries were trying. They succeeded. They didn't. I don't want to say they succeeded 100%, but at least they succeeded in delivering that message. It didn't result in victory, because obviously we still at the tail end of civilization. But at least we know the weakness and the diagnosis of the problem. But we need to figure out how we can entice people, rather than blind following, to go and get the divine enlightenment first, which will light the intellectual enlightenment and lead us to progress in every aspect of life. Now, I'm going to prove to you through historical facts that we cannot succeed with one without the other. But it starts with us with divine enlightenment. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, when he moved to Medina, he was emphasizing the importance of education. He was even dedicating certain times for educating women. Whenever he was developing the army, even though he wasn't given permission to fight yet, right? But people were getting trained and preparing, because they know they had to defend this first cell of Islamic independence, right? They had to defend it somehow. And at the same time, the first 2 years almost, he wrote the first official comprehensive human rights declaration to govern every human being, whether Muslims or non-Muslim or not Muslim, living under Islam, right? To protect their God-given rights. So he was teaching us that we always, that the divine enlightenment we always will have to be there, remembering monotheism and our correct aqeedah, our correct creed. But at the same time, that's not enough for progress in life. We need to advance ourselves. We need to be innovative in how to progress the public interest. How to progress in public for the comfort of public interest. He taught us that. Then when it came to the Khulafa al-Rashidin, starting with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him, he did improvement on the of the army as Islam was expanding, and he did also progress in judicial system, because Islam is, as we know, the narrative of Islam after establishing the correct monotheism and the correct creed is justice, mercy, and honorable morals. And as Islam was expanding, he expanded and improved on the judicial system for the comfort of public interest. And he continued emphasizing the importance of education. And slowly but surely, the level of literacy among the Arabs and among the Muslims is increasing. They are more literate now, right? Then came the time of Al-Khalifa Umar, when during his time, he destroyed the two empires that we just talked about earlier, the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire. And now Islam, a lot of non-Arabs are converting to Islam, and Islam is very much expanding. So how is he gonna govern this huge Islamic empire that now he has? So he learned from the way the Persians were governing and the Romans were governing, administrative governing. To organize the states, to have a governor on each state, and each governor have their own administrative government, and so on and so forth, for the progress of people, for the progress of the empire, for the progress of public interest. And he emphasized the importance of, obviously, on education as Islam was expanding, to learn other languages so they can teach it to the non-Arabs teach Islam to the non-Arabs. So now literacy is increasing now. Educated people from men and women are increasing, and they teaching the non-Arabs the Quran and the Hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. Then when it came al Khalifa Uthman, may Allah be pleased with him, because now we have a lot of non-Arabs, he wanted to make sure he collected all the copies of the Quran, that they have one copy that is the same among everyone, so there is no mistakes in the Quran or in articulating the Quran. And of course he had focused on the sciences of al-Hadith and focused a lot on the education of Islamic education and learning other sciences from the non-Arabs and other cultures that had some sciences, like the Persians and the Romans. And of course, by that time we were already in Southeast Asia too. When Al-Khalifat Ali time came, there was a lot of fitna and tribulations among the Muslims. So, but for the protection of people, since the army is very busy, so what did he do? He advanced the administrative of police, not for being tyrant. We know that Khalifa Ali was the wise, was very fair, was very just, and very good from among the people, of course, from Ahlul Bayt and from among the people promised heaven. So he did it for the service of people, to protect people, because the army was so busy and he was worried about protecting people, and he knows that he's responsible for them. So he advanced the administration of police for service of people, and developed new improved rules for trade and marketing to be in accordance to Islam for benefit of people. So he introduced regulations to protect consumers. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Ask Allah for forgiveness. He is the most forgiving, the most merciful. الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولي الصالحين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Then after Al-Khulafa al-Rashidin came Al-Amawiyin, and Al-Amawiyins, since a lot of non-Arabs are converting to Islam, they figured to make sure there is no mistakes in reading the Quran, they introduced the punctuations. You know, the dots and the fatha, kasra, and dhamma, and these things to read because the original Quran, when it was written, it was just the letters without any punctuations. Ask an Arab to read it today without any punctuation, they will make a mistake in it. It has to have the dot, it has to have all the punctuations to read it correctly, even the Arabs. So, but at that time, it was a challenge for the non-Arabs who converting to Islam, so they introduced that. And they are the first one to introduce the translation of sciences from foreign languages to Arabic, especially the Latin. So all through up to now, they moving in two paths. The divine enlightenment is the foundation and the source that will will shine the light on the progress in every other aspect of life, whether it's economics or sciences or sociology or engineering or architecture. But the source is the divine enlightenment first. Then when it came the Abbasis, and at the same time we had the Islamic Khilafah or Islamic Empire in Spain. Both of them, each one of them were the 25% of center of gravity. Together is 50%, meaning the advancement of sciences. During their time, we reached the golden age. During that time. And we still have the divine enlightenment. But then what happened during the Abbasi Empire toward the end, tyranny started increasing. They start not going for the teaching of the Quran and the Hadith directly. They left the Quran and they left the Hadith, and what they went for is for the sayings of these scholars. So during that time, they adopted blind following, taqlid al-a'ma, and tribalized a school of thoughts. They tribalized al-madahib. So now progress did not prevent both from complete destruction. We still had progress at that time, but what declined is the divine enlightenment, because the divine enlightenment, the source of it is Quran and Sunnah. They left the Quran and the Sunnah, the source of divine enlightenment, and they went for the sayings of the A'imma, the saying of the scholars, right? And the progress and the sciences and the progress in life and every aspect of life could not prevent them from being destroyed from the lowest class of people, from the savages of that time, who are the Mongols. They destroyed the Abbasi Empire to the degree they didn't understand the value of education they had in these books. They threw it in the rivers. And you would think the Islamic Empire in Spain would contemplate, will think, maybe we need to change course or correct course. Maybe we need to get back to divine enlightenment. They did worse. They left it. They did worse than the Abbasis. The Islamic Empire in Spain, al-fahisha, the evil doing, became normalized. Okay? Fornication, adultery, stealing, everything that is you can think of as being haram became normalized. Forget the Quran, forget the Sunnah. This is like something old-fashioned, and it was approved by their scholars. So what did Allah do to them? Medieval Europe was even worse than Quraysh. The current day Muslims, especially the Arabs, are equivalent to what was medieval Europe. Not equivalent to Quraysh is better than today's Arabs. Today's Arabs are worse than Quraysh. Today's Arabs or Muslims in general are the same as how medieval Europe was. Alright? And this low-class medieval Europe and Crusaders are the ones who destroyed, obliterated completely even the Muslims, even though they were the shining city on the hill. They had a lot of progress. They were very advanced, very well educated, men and women. But that didn't protect them from these savages who were in the medieval Europe. Right? And then after the Abbasis, as we know, came few Islamic empires at the same time, but the biggest were the Ayyubis and the Mamluk. And it's true at that time Muslims were not united, but overall enlightenment and progress were maintained. And Muslims were still superpower and a power to reckon with, and a beacon for scientific and economic power. Islamic empire of that time maintained both, but they were not united and they were fighting with each other all the times. And that was the reason for their weaknesses. Until the Ottoman Empire came and they united all the Muslims, and they became one big Islamic empire, and they did huge progress in economics and were a huge economic power in its time, and its complete economic solidarity among the Muslim ethnicities, Arabs and non-Arabs, for the strength of Islam. And of course they continued the innovation on sciences and progress for the betterment of mankind, until they did one major mistake toward the end of 17th or 18th century, or the beginning of the 18th century, when they closed the door of independent thinking. That's iqfal bab al-ijtihad, in both in religious affairs and in progress, in all types of sciences, whether engineering or economics or sociology, in every aspect of life. So anything new that came, they said, nope, we have everything that we know. Anything else that comes after that is considered haram. They closed the door of independent thinking. And because of that, what happened? Innovation in religion increased. Ignorance and poverty start increasing. They stopped the education of women, and when you stop the education of women, what happened? You have an ignorant society, right? And then at the end, what happened in 1924? The Islamic Empire was not cancelled by enemies of Islam, by non-Muslim. It was cancelled by a Muslim who decided to cancel Islam from our life because they said Islam doesn't work. And when actuality, and we'll continue next time with it, when in actuality, the mistake that the Ottoman Empire did is they closed the door of independent thinking in both aspects of life, in religious affairs and in other sciences. We'll continue inshallah next time with it. I would like to remind myself first and foremost, and you, with the hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wassalam, 2 words, very light on the tongue, very heavy on the scale of good deeds, very loved by the merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah wa bihamdih, Subhanallah al-Azim. Say it at least 100 times a day. And know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to send prayers on Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam when he told us in the Quran, Inna Allahu malaikatuhu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid. اللهم ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم ربنا آمنا بما أنزلت واتبعنا الرسول فاكتبنا مع الشاهدين. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين. اللهم انصر من نصر دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم، واخذل من خذل دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة.